Welcome to All Night Society. It's been a week since I received that package, and I still can't shake the feeling that I am being watched. It all started on Valentine's Day this year. I am a 26-year-old woman living alone in a small apartment, and I had planned on spending the evening binge-watching rom-coms with a tub of ice cream. My phone buzzed at noon with a delivery notification from a shipping company I'd never heard of. A little excitement bubbled up in my chest. I am a sucker for surprises, even if they're just packages of junk I ordered months ago and forgot about. When I opened the door, I was greeted by a small, unmarked box sitting on my doorstep. It was nothing special brown cardboard, slightly battered as if it had traveled over a few bumpy miles. I figured it was a late Valentine's gift from my mom, so I tore it open without a second thought. Inside was a bouquet of black roses, preserved and eerily lifelike, along with a small, handwritten note that simply read, "For someone who deserves to be remembered." At first, I thought it was some weird but sweet gesture, maybe even a prank from a friend. But as I sat there staring at the flowers, a chill ran down my spine. I didn't know anyone who would send me something like this. I shrugged it off and placed the roses on my dining table, thinking they would make a nice centerpiece for my evening alone. That night, as I settled in for my movie marathon, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The shadows in my apartment seemed to stretch longer than usual, and the air felt thick and heavy around me. I turned on a couple of lights, hopping to chase away the creeping unease, but it didn't help. I couldn't stop glancing at the roses, their dark petals glistening under the soft glow of the lamp. As the hours passed, I noticed something strange. Every time I looked away from the roses, I could have sworn I heard soft whispers. I tried to convince myself that it was just the sound of the TV, but the whispers grew louder, clearer. They began to form words, chilling words that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. "Remember us," they seemed to chant, echoing through the empty rooms of my mind. I was exhausted by the time the clock struck midnight, but I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the day's events, trying to figure out who might be behind the roses. Finally, I decided to take a closer look at the flowers. As I inspected them, I felt a prick on my fingerone of the thorns had broken off, leaving a tiny droplet of blood. Suddenly, the whispers intensified, and the room grew colder. could see my breath in front of me, swirling like a specter. And that's when I noticed something moving in the corner of my eye. I turned, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw a figure draped in shadows, watching me from the hallway. It wasn't just a trick of the light. I could sense its presence, a weight pressing down on me. I bolted back to the living room, my heart racing, and that's when I heard an anguished wail echoing through my apartment. It sounded like 1,000 voices crying out in pain, whispering my name. I don't know what those flowers were or who sent them, but ever since that night, I've been plagued by nightmares. I see those black roses everywhere on my nightstand, in the bathroom mirror, even on my kitchen table where they originally sat. I can hear the whispers as I fall asleep, their chant echoing in my mind, relentless and haunting. Now I am not sure how to get rid of them. I tried throwing the roses away, but they just keep coming back, as if they are attached to my very soul. I can't shake the feeling that someone or something wants me to remember. But I don't want to remember. Not anymore. Last Valentine's Day was supposed to be special. My girlfriend, Anna, and I had been together for about a year. We had our ups and downs, but things felt solid. I wanted to surprise her, so I planned a romantic evening in our little apartment. Candles, her favorite meal, and a heartfelt gift. But what I found in the process turned this day into a living nightmare. I decided to clean the apartment before she arrived. As I was tidying up the living room, I noticed a small, folded piece of paper sticking out from under the couch. It was unusual to find something like that, but I pulled it out, thinking it might be a forgotten note from Anna. When I opened it, my blood ran cold. The letter was addressed to someone named Clara. It spoke of love, devotion, and longing. The handwriting was elegant, almost too perfect. But what struck me as unsettling was the date at the top, February 14th, 1987. I felt sick to my stomach. This was an old letter, decades out of time, yet it felt eerily fresh. The words dripped with emotion, but they twisted in a way that gnawed at my insides. Clara, the writer lamented, was lost to time, and the writer seemed to be haunted by her absence. Against my better judgment, I showed the letter to Anna when she arrived. I could see her brow furrowing as she read through the lines. She put the letter down, her face pale, and asked where I found it. I explained, and her expression shifted from confusion to unease. It felt like we were standing on the edge of something we couldn't quite see. That night, we tried to shake it off, but the atmosphere in our apartment felt wrong. Shadows loomed longer than they should, and I swear I heard whispering in the walls. Anna and I brushed it off as our imaginations running wild, but then she started having nightmares. I could hear her thrashing in her sleep, murmurs escaping her lips. Clara, please come back. The sound sent chills through me. A few days later, I decided to do some digging. I needed to find out who Clara was. I went to the local library, poring through old records, and finally found a newspaper article from the late 1980s. Clara Thompson, a bright young woman, had disappeared without a trace on Valentine's Day. It was like a punch to the gut. The article described her as vibrant, loved by all, but it also mentioned that her boyfriend at the time had never been found either. The story ended abruptly, leaving a chilling sense of unfinished business. When I returned home that evening, I could sense a palpable weight in the air. Anna was waiting for me, her eyes wide with dread. I saw her, she whispered, her voice trembling. I saw Clara. She was in my dream again. I didn't know what to make of it. It felt like we had unwittingly opened a door that should have stayed shut, and Clara was trying to come through. Things escalated from there. Objects began to move on their own, flickering lights, and an overwhelming sense of despair filled our space. Valentine's Day, once a celebration of love, had morphed into a suffocating fog of confusion and dread. Anna and I argued more frequently, the air thick with tension. It was clear something was wrong, something that had seeped into our lives like a parasite, feeding off our fears. Eventually, in a moment of desperation, I made the decision to burn the letter. I thought it might sever whatever connection Clara had to us. As the flames consumed the paper, a deafening silence enveloped the room. It felt like a scream had been swallowed whole, but the relief was short-lived. That night, I woke up to a whisper in the darkness. You can't escape me. We haven't celebrated Valentine's Day since. Anna and I moved out of that apartment a few months later, but I can still feel the weight of Clara's words pressing against my chest. I often wonder if she's still out there, still looking for someone to fill that void. It's been a year, and yet every time February rolls around, I feel that familiar chill creep back in. So, to anyone hearing this, if you find a love letter that doesn't belong to you, for the love of whatever is out there, leave it be. Some things are better left buried. Last week, I celebrated Valentine's Day with what I thought was just an innocent dinner. I had been dating Megan for about 6 months, and like any guy, I wanted to make it special. I booked a table at this little Italian place downtown, the kind that has candles on the tables and old love songs playing in the background. But as the night unfolded, I quickly realized that love was the last thing I was going to feel. It started off great. Megan looked beautiful in her red dress, and we laughed over cheesy pasta and glasses of wine. But halfway through the meal, I noticed something odd. There was a framed photo on the wall behind her that seemed out of place. It was a picture of a couple I didn't recognize, their eyes hauntingly focused on something behind them. I tried to shake it off, but I felt an inexplicable chill every time I glanced at it. After dinner, we decided to walk around the nearby park. It was one of those nights where the air felt thick, almost electric. As we strolled, we passed an old, abandoned gazebo. I suggested we go in for a moment of quiet, maybe to share a kiss under the moonlight. As we stepped inside, I felt that same creeping sensation from the restaurant. It was as if the shadows themselves were watching us. Megan seemed to be enjoying herself until I noticed her suddenly stiffen. "Do you hear that?" she whispered, her eyes darting to the entrance. I strained my ears, but all I could hear was the rustling of leaves in the breeze. I dismissed it, thinking maybe she was just feeling the eerie atmosphere. But as we stood there, I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. It was inescapable, a primal instinct telling me we weren't alone. Then, from the corner of my eye, I caught a fleeting glimpse of something moving in the shadows. My heart raced. I turned, and for a split second, I thought I saw a figure, a man, tall and gaunt, standing just beyond the gazebo. He was wearing a tattered suit, his face obscured in darkness. I blinked, and when I opened my eyes, he was gone. I dismissed it as my imagination, but Megan's face told me she had seen something too. "Let's get out of here," she said, her voice shaky. We hurried back to the main path, but the feeling of dread clung to us like a shroud. Just as we reached the park entrance, a loud crash echoed from the gazebo. I turned back, and for a moment, I thought I saw the figure again, this time standing right where we had just been. I felt frozen in place, and Megan pulled me away, urging me to keep moving. When we finally made it back to my car, I felt a weight lift. But as I glanced in the rearview mirror, I swear I saw him again, his shadow lurking just beyond the trees. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching us, and I didn't sleep well that night. The next day, I received a strange text from Megan. "I think we need to talk." I thought she was just feeling spooked like I was, but when I met her, she looked pale and drawn. I can't explain it, but I can't shake the feeling that something is coming for us. Like that night wasn't just a weird coincidence. I tried to reassure her, but inside, I felt that same unease. We decided to stay away from the park, but every night since then, I've had nightmares about that man. In my dreams, he's always standing just outside my door, waiting. I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like I'm being hunted, and I can't help but wonder if there's something more sinister at play. Like we stumbled upon something we shouldn't have.